Joining me now via Skype is a lawyer, Libros Oshoma, to shed light on this development. Now, Libros, it's good to have you join me right now. Good morning. Now, a lot of Nigerians, and from the reaction of Nigerians, they have been satisfied so far. Nigeria has been able to secure a stay of execution on the case between it and the P&ID. But what they need to know is the request to pay $200 million into the account of the court. Can you make us understand what that means?
Yeah, what it means is once there is a judgment of this nature, usually if you are disputing the judgment, and the court, usually what the court does is to look at, find a middle ground of justice for both parties. And then because also of the time value of money, the court usually will request that a certain sum is deposited in the court account. In the event that your appeal failed, so that money deposited probably would have been yielding interest, in the name of whoever wins the appeal. If Nigeria, if at the end of the day, Nigeria eventually wins that appeal, the money will be refunded back to them. And if they don't, so as not to force a fait accompli on the court, that's why the court requested just deposit the money on the account. So if at the end of the day you fail on appeal, then that money probably would have yielded interest for the benefit of, the judgment creditor. And so that's why, the courts usually, it's a common practice, even in our courts here, once there's a judgment debt against you, and then you're applying to stay execution of the judgment. In most cases, what the other party, the judgment creditor does is to say, well, while I will not be opposing the application for stay, but I will request that the court humbly, grant a conditional stay, request that the money be deposited in an interest-yielding account in the name of the registrar of the court, so that at the end of the day, whoever, wins on appeal.
All right, but Libros, we hear. Yeah, Libros, we hear a report says that the Minister of Justice or the Attorney General of the Federation might appeal, because he's leading the Nigerian team. He might appeal the request to pay $200 million.
Yes, that's what I also heard too, but I doubt if there is, any court that will grant him, such request not to pay anything at all, because first and foremost, we're looking at a judgment sum here. And then also, if you look at the time it took us to appeal, and most especially against the backdrop that we did not plead fraud in our recent application for stay of execution. So all of this, I doubt if any courts will give you a stay with an unconditional stay of execution of that matter. And maybe they might review their position subsequently and say, well, this is the best we can get, but I wonder how far they will go with that.
All right. Libros Oshoma, thank you very much for talking to us on TVC Breakfast.
Well, joining me via Skype is lawyer Libros Oshoma. Libros, thank you for joining us on TVC Breakfast. Good morning.
Good morning.
Now, there's been several reactions to this judgment. What was your reaction? Was this what you envisaged, first of all?
Yes, what I envisaged, I knew that the court was likely going to grant a conditional stay of execution, because it's a normal thing to do, so as not also to show bias, and then also because we also, acted timelessly within the parameters of the events that unfolded. And then secondly, I also knew that they were going to grant us leave to appeal, and these are normal.
All right. So how significant are all of this to the case in question?
Yeah, with the emerging fact, I also, first and foremost, I was wondering why all of the emerging fact, or maybe we are still, investigating. I wondered why we didn't put all of those yesterday. I'm talking about the allegation of fraud, but maybe investigation is still ongoing. And so far with the emerging facts, I think that the matter, if we put our house in order, we might probably succeed on appeal.
When you say put our house in order, how do you mean, and how can Nigeria go about doing that?
Yeah, because the government had alleged that the contract was
A scam.
a fraud, was a scam. And even though, going by the house management rule, we call it house management rule in law, that the P&ID ought not to, be aware or involved in how we got approval for the contract and all of those things. The most important thing is that it was duly executed by people who were authorized to do that. But the issue here is that where the job that was to be executed, was it executed by P&ID, and how well, also did they perform their part of the bargain, so all of these are issues that I imagine, and if proper conducted and all of these facts are put before the court, I think the court will have a rethink, because fraud is one of the many grounds for vitiating contractors of that nature. And so if we're able to successfully establish the fact that this contract was a scam, then I think the award also can be satisfied.
But there was a judgment in Nigeria before Thursday's proceedings. Isn't that enough to prove that it was a scam?
No. That's the courts in Nigeria, the jurisdiction of the court in Nigeria does not extend to what happened in the courts in London. Also, I also consistently hear the P&ID spokesperson talking tough and issuing statement on their website. And so to that extent, I feel there's more to this than meet the eye. And that's why for me, it's not about what happened in court and the fact that there's court order ordering that the company be wound up, the Nigerian office of the company be wound up. All of those for me are not issues I'm really looking at. I'm actually looking at how we deal with the matter at the court in London. The award was made. And then also, like I consistently have maintained, this idea of us always going to sign and execute contracts in London, and then, the arbitration clause that in the event that there is a crisis, a foreign court should have jurisdiction, we should begin to have a rethink. Otherwise, the matter would have been exclusively dealt with here. But because of those clauses in the agreement, the court in London is, sees of the fact of the matter, and the matter is already there. But we're taking the appropriate step that needs to be taken. And if we walk at this speed, then there might, be hope for us.
All right, quickly before we let you go, liberals, should Nigeria just negotiate?
I don't think so, because with the emerging fact, like I said, Nigerian, the government is establishing the fact that it was indeed a scam. And so if government had taken that part, there's no need to negotiate.
All right, liberals, we have
transaction you say was scam.
All right, we have to leave it at this point. Thank you for your time on TVC Breakfast.
My pleasure.
Well, joining me via Skype is lawyer Liberos Oshoma. Thank you for joining us, Liberos. Good morning. Good morning. All right, the court has given Nigeria 60 days to pay the sum of 200 million for the stay of execution to be effective. What are the implications if Nigeria fails to do so?
It's pretty simple. What it means is that if Nigeria fails to deposit, not pay, deposit that money in the court accounts, it's a security sum. It's a security sum. Deposit it in court account, and then that is the condition for activating the stay of execution. And if the government refuses to deposit that sum within the next 60 days, it means the stay of execution is vacated.
So now moving forward.
Nobody's taking them. Yeah.
So moving forward now, how does Nigeria begin to put its case together now to have a favorable judgment in the end?
Yeah, I think the government is actually doing everything within its powers to ensure that they get the judgment overturned on appeal. They have raised the issue of a fraud, that the processing itself was actually a scam. But how effective they will pursue that, will determine
if we'll be able to upturn that judgment on appeal, even though they have not raised that in court, but I think they are still putting their house in order. And so maybe the level they have gotten to is not yet a level that is acceptable at the international level. But so far, we've been able to clean the house, domestically. But I think if they are able to dig further and get more facts, which were not presented originally before the court when the matter came up, then they might be able to get the judgment upon on appeal. Otherwise, then we'll just be back to square one. But I see positive results, coming from the effort. If government had put these efforts, even before the judgment was delivered, we probably would have, get more.
Do you envisage a challenge when it comes to the federal government digging further to get more facts that will prove beyond reasonable doubt that this was a scam, as the president calls it?
Yeah, yes and no. Yes, in the fact that these are, we are dealing with human processes. And then we're also aware that some of the people who were originally involved, some of them are still in government, though some are out of government, and they still wait strong influence, in and out of government. Then also, yes, in the fact that if we want to be altruistic and if we really want to do the right thing, I want to be patriotic in whatever we do, and if indeed the process was indeed a sham, then and a scam, then we would, then I would say there won't be challenges. But Nigeria being what it is, we'll just keep our fingers crossed and hope for the best.
All right, so definitely hope for the best. Thank you, Libera Soshoma, for your time on TVC Breakfast.